Soon. Somehow I had my paper down as starting at 3:30, and I'm frantically trying to get my stuff together, and it's 3 o'clock. It's time to get rolling. So we're going to go ahead and get started here in a little bit. I see some of you guys are still having a question. Is it up or not? I am going to post. Yes, we are live now. I apologize. I was going over pricing with my staff, and so that is why I was here just making sure I got my P's and Q's and straight and getting started, and here we are. So it was kind of exciting this morning to watch the video. There's some three machines that we're going to talk about, three different machines that are, one's not that much different. The other two have had some significant improvements. And most of you, if you've looked online at all, there is a new XP2, which is an improvement over the XP1. I got to get this out of my way a little bit so I can see it better. And there's also a brand new 10 needle. We're going to get into that in a little bit. I'm going to be uploading, I'm going to be in the comments section there. I'm going to be putting on some links here as we go along. So if you want to look at a sales sheet for the XP2, you can look in the comments. Hey, Shirley, good to see you. I wish you could be back up north here with us. There's a little link there that has a link to sobamidji.com, a website that I just put that on there. That is the link to the sales sheet for the XP2. Now, we're going to talk about that a little bit. XP2, XP1. One of the things I love about Brother is that they don't come out with a new top of the line every year or two, and you never really know when to buy the next big one because the next year might be even something better. Brother so wisely has included the ability to upgrade their machines and to continue to add to them. And they've done that this year. And one of the things I'm going to spill the beans right now is that if you have an XP1, with the upgrade, you can now have an XP2. Isn't that nice? They've made that so that, and you will have everything that the XP2 people have, except with a little different cosmetics on the front of your machine. Other than that, it's exactly the same. And so it's going to be that way with some of these other things we're going to talk about today too, that there are other accessories that are involved with this as well. So there's going to be some cool stuff going. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here. And so you can see what this is here, and you can be following along. So the XP2, what is new in the XP2? Well, a number of things is that if you've used the XP1, you know that you can create it. You can use it to create a embroidered, quilted, sashed border around up to almost a queen-size quilt. So it means if you want to do perfect feathers the whole way around, it has that. And you now have the ability to do that in a hexagon shape as well. And there's a bunch of different styles on that. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so that you can see this maybe a little bit better. There's also the ability now to have two colors of those sashing designs. So if you want to have a little more texture, a little more ability in there, before these designs were only in single color. And the nice thing about this is that as you do these designs, it goes completely around the quilt. And if your pattern wavers a little bit, it will follow right along and you can do it very easily. It's very, very nice. I've used it. We're going to be teaching that in our Luminaire class here the end of this month. If you have not noticed that, or if you have a Luminaire and want to take that class, go check out our website, Bemidji, S-E-W, Bemidji, BEMIDJI.com, or you can check it out on our Facebook page. We have those things set up there, and you can learn for 2 days. You get to learn all the features of your Luminaire machine. You also have the ability to change these quilting stitches from a triple run, which is that heavier look, to a single run. So it's a little bit lighter look, and it gives you more of the texture and the definition without it changing. You also have 6 more decorative fills. So you know with the Luminaire 1 and the Kit 1, you had 36 patterns. Well, now they've added 6 more. You can see them right here for a total of 42 patterns. And these have been really handy for using in making your quilt blocks, for doing quilting. We're going to be teaching in our class how to do that on a quilt that you've pieced elsewhere. So those are useful in there as well. Some patterns just fit better than others. Sometimes a stippling is all you need. Sometimes you want a little more definition. Well, now you have 6 more. There's also new embroidery patterns. These are also border and corner patterns. So you can use these for creating borders around motifs, around quilt squares. There's a whole bunch of ones in there. I'm not going to waste a lot of time here because we have a lot of things we want to get through. So we're going to keep rolling on. There's also some new embroidery patterns. These are quilt types. Up here you see a motif. This is a run type. And so this is where if you want to do a fill pattern over a whole large area of your quilt, you got your sewing machine, needle, thread, pincushion, scissors, and this is a repeating pattern so that it'll just continue. It's a continuous pattern for doing edge-to-edge quilting. You have a lot of other patterns in here they've shown done in these small sections. These are all included in the XP2 upgrade. Another thing that was nice is that if you remember in our Luminaire machine, we had the ability to add stippling to any design that we brought in. You bought a design from Floriani, you bought a design from Kimberbell, and you wanted to turn it into a quilt block. You had the ability to do it with stippling right here, or you had to go through a multi-step process to add your decorative fills. Well, now you can do all of that right here from one page inside embroidery mode. And that is really handy for those of us who just want to quickly add something, but we don't want to go through all the process of going over to my design center. Just fill the thing. And I want to use one of these crosshatch. I want to put crosshatch behind all this stuff. It now gives you that ability to do that right here instead of going through my design center. Major uptick in the user friendliness of this option. You also have the ability of called random shift. Now, random shift was something that some of you have never played with, you've never used, but it's kind of a fun way of doing it. Before, you could just go in the My Design Center, you'd go in and you press random shift, and all your circles would then have a little bit of wonkiness to them. Well, now they have a bunch of different styles of random shift. And so currently, you have only 3 different variations of random shift, and they look like this. Now you have 6, and they have 3 different styles. I'm not going to mess around with this too much more. I plan to probably do a video talking about some of these things later when we have our machine. That was one thing that was a little disappointing, is that our machine shipment got delayed. The freight company took an extra day, and so instead of having our machines here to play with today, we have to wait for another day or so. So I hope to have a video showing how some of these things work later. Another one is options for background image. This is if you scan in a design and you want to include the background, but just a little bit, it'll also work for the ability to turn that on and off. Excuse me, I backed that up. You can turn that on or off, and to be able to see it, and especially if you're choosing colors or trying to figure out what colors go where, it's a really handy. That background image is right here on the screen now, instead of having to go back into settings to turn that on or off. The other thing is for extracting outlines. This is great for when we're working with fill stitches, like we want to fill in with decorative stitching. Before, we would go into our Luminaire and we'd go down to our outline setting down here, and it would look for the distance, but it's only looking for the outside distance. Well, when you have a letter like D here, what happens if you want to put your stippling inside of here too, not just the outside? Well, now you have the ability with the new one to put not only the outlines on the outside, but also in the inside as well. And it's great if you have large scale designs that have lots of white space in them. This is a great way of using that. Again, a new feature. Here's a feature for the sewing function that has been it's been very fun when people have had the sonic pen on the Dreamweaver and the Dream Machine, but most people never used them. And if you do decorative sewing, you're going to absolutely love this, because you can actually take this little snowman sticker and you can have a line say, I want to end my pattern right here. And it'll ask you, do you want to end it halfway through the design or at the end of the design? And so thus you can say, I'm going to say at the end of the design. And so you put this new little snowman sticker down. This one is it comes included in the upgrade kit or it comes included with your machine if you buy the new XP2. And you put this down at the end and you say, find the end of it. And the machine will use the camera and it'll measure how far is this from the needle. But it doesn't even have to be lined up specifically there. You can have it off to the side and it will measure what this distance is. And then it'll calculate and says, well, there's 7.8 patterns go in there. We're going to compress them together a little bit so we can get a full 8. And thus it will end exactly, as you can see over here, it'll end exactly on that stitch. This is great if you're doing decorative stitches around picture frames. Somebody will make their own picture frames using embroidery designs on canvas and buttonholes where you can tuck pictures into them. It's great for that. It's great for anytime you're doing decorative sewing around something to frame it. It gives you that perfect end, and it's something I think is going to be very, very handy for those of us who like to do decorative sewing. Rolling on, they also have a rolling tote. Some of you, the first Luminaire case that came out was nice in the fact that the wheels would roll in any direction. It was not nice in the fact that you couldn't tip it back and roll it, and it was hard to roll it lengthwise as most people would be used to. And so now they have come out with a new luggage set that has going to have a handle on one end and 4 rolling wheels these are going to that you can grab it and pull at either end, and that is a much greater improvement over what it had before. There's going to be some updates that are coming on here that are going to be free to those of you who have an XP1, but they won't be coming out until later this fall as they're still working on that. That is the ability to turn on and off the stylus. With the stylus, you have a lot of different things here that you can do with it. You can change the background. Before, you just had either black or white. Now they have gray. And the nice thing is you can do that right on the fabric. So when you're using your stylus to be doing your stitch auditions and adjusting it, you can change the background right there without having to go into settings. Again, another user-friendly feature. There's also some accessories they've come up with. I'm going to run through these fairly quickly, but one of these is just huge, and that is the magnetic sash frame. This is awesome. Now, many of you have been using the magnetic frames from Dime or some of those other ones, and they're great. They're good. They've really made it a lot easier for doing our quilting in the hoop. But by them bringing this out, I can't demonstrate this here today because I don't have this in the store to show you. But these magnets actually slide over and then snap into place, slide and snap into place. And you can do these all around here. And that actually kind of helps tension your quilt a little bit as it's pulling it snug. And let's say you did a whole section and now you're going to continue down the border. And I want to shift it all downward in the picture here. I would take off all of these and this end one and leave these 2 here. Then I grab my material and I just drag it, and these magnets keep it all lined up until it gets down to this position. And then I put my magnet hoops back on, and I don't have to worry about keeping it exactly centered in the hoop or keeping it lined up. These 2 magnets have done it for me. Much nicer improvement. The other thing that's great with this is that, let's say you have a big bulky quilt, and if you're using one of the other brand of magnetic hoops, you have that big green square that you have to try and figure out what to do with while you're moving the quilt around. And then where exactly do you put that square? The nice thing about that is that these are all smaller pieces. And so you can maneuver them around a little bit easier than you can the big green square that we had before. The big green square has worked well. Don't get me wrong. But this is going to be, I believe, a huge improvement over that. Now, some of you struggle with strength in your fingers, with some of these magnetic hoops, and some of you have gotten blood blisters from them. I like that they're including a lifter tool. This is enable you to, those of you who have arthritis or something like that, to be able to get these off of here without pinching your fingers. And that's going to be a nice feature as well. And that's going to come with the tool, or with the hoop, I believe. So this is kind of where talking about the magnetic sash frame, where you have positioning markers, you have rulers, and both inches and regular. Okay, magnifying lens. I know some of you, like me, wear cheaters, And some of us take our glasses off to thread the needle. Other people put the glasses on to thread the needle. Well, when you're using something other than a brother. You know how it is. Sometimes you want to be able to see really well down there where you're at. And so what they have done is they've created this magnifier here that clips onto the end of your machine. And as you can see in the picture here, it magnifies that whole work area in there so you can see closer to the needle without getting your face down there and getting a crink in your neck. So it's really nice for sometimes if you're using like a wing needle or working with metallic thread, you can't use your needle threader. This is an option that's going to make it a lot handier for you to be able to see that area without having to squint and call your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter to come and lick your thread and stick it through there for you. It's really a handy feature to sew with it that you can see better where you're going. And then the endpoint stickers. These are some of the stickers that will come with the new machine or the upgrade if you purchase them. And as you can see it right there, they're able to put that snowman sticker down at the end, and it will automatically end exactly at that point without being in some weird wonky part of the stitch. So it's very handy. This is what the kit. There's going to be an activation code. There's going to be some sheets and stuff, but it is mostly just a software upgrade for this machine this time. The magnetic hoop is extra. I will say this though, the upgrade is on the lower end of any of the upgrades that or the lower end of price of any of the upgrades that I have seen in the past from Brother. And that's really nice. Again, they're trying to keep it affordable for us who've already invested so much into these wonderful machines. But the magnetic hoop is not cheap. I can't give out prices here. But there's going to be a special price for those who've either bought their machines from us or been adopted by us. They will get a special price on that. So be sure to contact us afterwards if you have purchased those here. All right, keep moving on. We got a 10 needle. We have a new 10 needle machine, and it is a new machine. It's not a completely different machine, but there are some things that are new about it. I must confess, I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to have just a little bit more of a width of it. Like I wanted like a 9x14, or who knows, let's dream big, a 10x14. But that wasn't in the cards this time. But they have given us a lot of things that we were missing from the Luminaire and the Stellaire. They now have brought those into the 10 needle. And that's really handy because the 10 needle has often been viewed as a business machine. And yet I have a lot of people that are buying it because they enjoy embroidery. They enjoy the creating aspect of it. They like to get things done quickly. And those are all things that the 10 needle excels at. And they don't like changing threads all the time. Now, granted, I know Brother's got the best threader out there in the industry. I know that. But it doesn't change the thread for you. And if your design has 8 colors in it and it only takes 5 minutes to stitch out, guess what? It's going to take you almost as long to thread the machine as it is going to be for it to stitch. Because it just takes that time. You got to be there to change the threads and do all those things all the time. Whereas if you have a 10 needle, you hit start, and when you come back in 5 minutes, it's done. And you don't have to worry about that at all. And so a lot of people are saying, I wish I had these other nice quilting features. I wish I had some of that stuff that we have in our Luminaire in the 10 needle. Now you have it. Let's get back over here and I'll show you what's going on. All right, so the PR 1055X is the new machine, and it is different than the 1050X in some ways, and I'm going to try and point some of those out to you while we go. It's going to look a little different in color, not a huge difference, but it is a little different in color. It now has wireless networking, so it'll actually connect to your network, and that's going to be really important for a little bit. And you know what? I'm going to just run through these really quickly. It has a quilt sashing function. So just like I talked about on the Luminaire, where we have the ability to put a sashing the whole way around a quilt, we now have the same ability to do it on our 10 needle. And it'll do it a lot faster because it can stitch faster. And that will be something that'll be very handy. The other thing is the thread spool. New things on the new machine is thread spool change and thread breakage methods on the LCD. I'm going to show that here in a bit. Alignment function on editing. That's also so that if you are editing a design, you have a bunch of different options for aligning them. Individual start point setting for each embroidery design. So you can choose where you want the needle to position itself when you start the design. So if you have something that's really bulky and you don't want the hoop moving the whole way to the back and jamming up on the hoodie sweatshirt, you can set where you want it to start at. It's really handy at that point. Sound volume operation for operation and the notifications. Lighting brightness set for sewing and notifications. New embroidery screen, My Stitch monitor, and new accessories. Let's go through these things. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that's here. So I talked about the wireless connection. Now, I don't know this yet, but I know on the Luminaire, they come out with updates every so often. And the nice thing with the updates, or the nice thing about that, is that if they come out, if they figure that something's not working quite right, they will come up with the ability to, let's get over here. If they know that something's not coming up quite right, they will come up with a little tweak for it. And those are all free to you. And so they will include those in firmware updates. So before, what you had to do is you had to go to Brother's website, to the support channel, and you would go and punch in your model number, and it would take you to the download center and say, here's the most recent download, and you download it, and you unzip it, and you put it on a USB stick, and you put it into the machine, and you hold down the needle threader button while you turn it on, and then you can install it, and it works. We do it for people all the time here in the store when we bring them in for service. But with the Luminaire, it checks every so often back to the special portal and to see if there's a firmware update. And if there is, you get a little exclamation point, a little blue exclamation point, and says, hey, there's an update. And then all you have to do is just touch it and say install, and it installs it for you. So you don't have to come in and see me as often, which isn't going to be as happy, but it saves you that ability and then from having to do all that work yourself. So it's kind of nice. But the other thing the wireless network is really handy for is that we now have the ability to transfer designs to and from this machine wirelessly, which we did through BES4 before, but now we can also do it through PE Design 11. And there's another thing coming up here. Let me show you what else it's good for. When you use PE Design 11, if you start with 110 needle and you decide, boy, I really am enjoying this, I'm going to try and start a little small business. You get the second one, and then you get the third one. Well, you can monitor up to 10 machines from PE Design 11 from one computer. And so you can see exactly where they're all at and update them, send files to them, find out what's happening all in one shot. So if you start out as in the back bedroom from your daughter who went away to college, and you eventually end up hiring other people, and you have 10 machines all running at the same time, you can have one control center. That's not all of us, okay? But it is kind of a nice feature for those who want to get there. The other thing is that now when a thread breaks, this little screen is going to pop up, or you have to rethread the machine. A little screen will pop up and say, hey, you need to change these 3 threads. And before, we just saw this down here. Now there's actually a little diagram reminding you which spools to put them in on the top. Handy feature for that as well. And especially since there's 10 of them up there, and like one of my customers was telling me, I'm so short, I can't reach them back there. Well, we adjusted the height of her table back down, and so she's able to go there now. But it makes it a little easier to see that. This can also be accessed anytime, so that you can see what's going on, what threads are where, and you can see that all from this button right here. It's a new feature they've added there. This is where if the thread breaks, it's going to show you, it's going to blink at you. The other thing is also the whole lights on the machine will blink. And this is great if you have a couple machines running at the same time. Let's say you have a Luminaire and a 1055. And all of a sudden something sounds a little different. You can look over and you can see the light pulsing on the 10 needle. You know that's the issue. You walk over here, it tells you exactly which spool of thread is. Check this out, and away you go. You now have some new alignment tools. So in the 1055, this is the screen on the 1055X, or 1050X, excuse me, that was currently out. This is the new screen on the 1055. You now have an alignment tool that you can use. This is something we've had in the Luminaire ever since it came out. And it does have the ability now to like line up this lettering and this motif. Whereas on the 10 needle before, the only type of alignment I think we had was in multiple lines of lettering. And so now we can do several options together at one time. And that's another handy feature they brought over. This is choosing where you want to have your start point. And this is something I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but as I talked about a little earlier, you can choose which point of the design you want it to start and which one you want it to end on, rather than everything in the center or something different. There are now 50 new embroidery patterns. By the way, here's a little bit of trivia. On the 1055X, guess how many designs there are built into it? I believe, if I have this correct, it's 1,100. 1,100. That's a lot of designs, a lot of things that are in there. So it's just they've another value that they've added to this machine to give you a lot of tools that you can work with. So there are a bunch of big patterns for the magnetic sash frame. The sashing frame is an 8 by 14 inch magnetic frame that's also available for this machine. Now, it's a different frame than the Luminaire, but it is available. There is one for this one as well too, and that's huge. Those of you who have been working with thick things like Carhartt jackets and big bath towels, and you know how much of a pain they can be to hoop up. Well, now we have the magnetic hoop, and we have some really cool designs that we can work with it. You also have a new hat hoop that's coming out. I'm going to show you that in a little bit here. And there are also some new designs that they've come out with that as well. There's 50 new embroidery patterns in here. There are 3 new monogrammed fonts. These are ones that are going to be found not in your normal monogram here, but under the special monograms. And you now have 3 new fonts. So there's some really nice ones. You have a split letter design. We've had that on the Luminaire for a while now. Now we have it on here. This is great for ring bearer pillows or any type of thing where you want to have the primary initial in the background. Really handy features as well. And you can also do these because they changed the colors out here. You can also do these and just skip those colors. And if you have a little boy that doesn't like quite the frilly stuff, you can do that as well. And just skip that and get those things as well. You have 2-color sash quilting. I talked about this a little bit earlier. This is new for the 10 needle series. We did not have this before, but this is off the Luminaire. Great feature for those of us who like to do quilting and want to do it on our 10 needle. You also have this is the more data, added a page in here. This just gives you a little bit of an idea how these things work. These are the 5 different patterns that are built into here, and shows you how they can be done the whole way out around. And even like this, you can layer them so you can create your own designs wherever you want. This thing was completely quilted on a 10 needle. Very handy. All right. Embroidery fill designs. This is one thing that was really lacking in the My Design Center. The 1050X was the first 10 needle who had to have the My Design Center, and it has only had 10 fill stitches. Well, they've added 26 more, so we now have 36 designs that we can choose from in the 10 needle. And this is a very handy tool. Now we can do more of that quilting there as well. This is the new cool feature. I talked about the wireless function. Some of you have your machines in a room where you do all your sewing and creating, but every once in a while, your husband calls and says, "Don't I get to eat around here?" or something like that, and you have to go out and do cooking, but this has got another 45 minutes to run, especially on a 10 needle. It can run a long time with all those colors. And so, yeah, but you don't like quite walking away from it, because what happens if it stops? And then you got to just go back and check it over. Well, now there's an app that is available for both Android and Apple that will allow you to follow along with the machine. So you can be in the kitchen and you'll actually be able to see the design come to life on the screen just like it's doing it on the machine. So even if your machine's downstairs, the other end of the house, behind closed doors, so that no one else gets in there and the cat doesn't get up there and sit on it, you can still monitor that as long as it has a Wi-Fi connection. And if a thread breaks or it runs out of bobbin thread or something like that, your app will notify you on your phone so that you can go take care of the issue. Really handy feature for those of us who multitask and do various different things. One of my customers was during a very busy time of their lives. They were working way too many jobs than a human should work, and they would embroider through the night, and they'd have to set their timers to wake them up, when something happened. Well, now you have an app that if you want to go take a nap, the app will let you know. It'll ding at you when the design is finished, and you can control those notifications. Handy feature for it. Okay. And here's showing some of the things. You can see the length of time for the next stop, show currently past stitch count, show the currently past time in embroidery mode. But this is only going to work with one machine at a time. So if you do decide you want to go whole hog and buy 10 of these machines from me next week, I'll gladly help you do that, but you can only monitor one at a time. So just be aware of that. You can also, the multi-needle machine, before we had a very limited selection of thread vendors, and now they have more. Now, I don't know if Loriani is in there yet. We hope so. We have that in our Stellaire and in our Luminaire, and we're grateful for that. But you can also see the thread change information and see where everything else is at there. There's some accessories that came out for the PR, and I was telling you about the magnetic hoop. This is where this is so handy. It works on the same principle as what we have on our Luminaire, and that is now available on our 10 needle as well. And this is great, again, for doing these border embroidery functions, but it's also great for just doing any type of quilting or big bulky items that are hard to work out. It really looks like it works nice. And watching the video and how they hook this thing up, it really, really worked well. And so we're excited about that. The magnetic sash frame is going to be available, and it'll work on the PR1000, the PR670, the PR655 after, excuse me, maybe that's the 1050X. I'm not sure. No, yeah. And after October 2020. So they're not going to be, there's going to be a firmware update coming out for other machines that you'll have to have in order to make this frame work. So just be aware of that. And here's some of the features that you can work with on it. There's the tubular frame table. Now, we've been selling another brand of this that's made entirely out of plastic. So I like the fact that this is made out of metal. And it folds up nicely and stores away. But a lot of times, if you're embroidering on something fairly heavy, like a sweatshirt or a towel, you could use your big white table. But sometimes if you're a pair of jeans or down the sleeve of a Carhartt, that's a lot of weight pulling down on those arms. And so they have made a support arm that can slide on there so you can put that weight out over top of it. And you can support that all around your hoop. And this is really handy. I use that all the time when I'm using my other brand of magnetic hoops that aren't made for this machine, and you have to be very careful with, but they're heavy and a lot of weight there. And this was a really handy feature for that. The metal one looks like it's made really well, and it stores away nicer than the plastic one that I have, but it is a little more expensive. And so check with your dealer to find out what your thoughts are, or if it's going to be something that you want to invest in. I'm going to be getting a couple of them in here because I really like the way the metal looks like. I think it's going to support it very, very well, but the time will tell. And it is adjustable here. You can adjust it in and out depending on how long you're working with something. We're going to see once how that goes, and I might have another review on that later. So this shows you with the tubular table, it slides out and it can support it so you don't have all that weight hanging on your arms. Here you don't, and it's going to be pushing it down. And what they don't show you here is pushing up on the inside of your hoop, which can loosen up that that embroidery and cause your alignment to be off if you're doing single stitch outlines or things like that. That really can mess those up if you're stretching it out that way. This is something that was exciting. They have a whole new hat hoop system. And I know caps are a pain in the neck. They're not easy to hoop. Sure, you can get used to them, but it's kind of like getting used to getting sand thrown in your eyes. You know, you just, it's still an irritant, but you do it because that's A, that's where money is. B, that's where your loved ones want. And so you do it because you love them. They have a new hat hoop, and I am so anxious to get this and play with this because it does take a new driver. So there's going to be a new kit that you're going to be on here, but there's a few features that are really handy. I don't know, I forget if some of these features are in there. I'm going to talk about them real quickly. Instead of having a latch that snaps over, you now have a ratchet knob that you can click, 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 and you can get the proper tension on your cap right away. That looks like a big improvement to me. The fact is that they now have a plastic-coated one-piece design that's designed to clamp right above the brim and gives you your alignment so that everything stays perfectly lined up is a huge improvement. I don't know how many times I've been frustrated because my caps, you know, got a little bit off. When you go to clamp it, it's pulling down on one side. It wants to pull it down there. And you notice that this clamps right above that brim. Why do you think that is? Well, here. Oh, I got to get it into here. Here's the old frame. See how it's got this metal piece here? Sometimes that would deform this cap and would make it very difficult to get in the hoop. Whereas now, it looks like they have a clear shield that goes up over top of that just simply lets it ride out of the way. It's called a flat brim. A lot of these caps now are designed with this this low profile on top of here, and that's what a lot of people really want. And it's been very hard to embroider them on our old system because it tended to want to really distort them and get them out of the way or to pull it out of shape. Well, now this hat hoop is designed to eliminate that. And so this is how you hoop it up. You just attach it by clamping it on down there and then ratchet the bottom. Boom, you're done. Whereas over here, you have to fish this piece up over the top, get it down, get your hat hoops kind of centered up in place, clamp this down, make sure it didn't shift this, then flip this over. And so it is a much more cumbersome setup. So I think that's going to be a huge improvement. Here's the other thing. This whole frame, before we were limited to 24 millimeters above the brim. Now, if you're not familiar with metric, that is just under 1 inch. That's as close as you can get to the brim. Well, they've reduced that by 25%. It's down to 18 millimeters. They've reduced it. They brought the space down so you can get a little closer to the brim. Rosemary, you had the question of will the new cap frame fit the PR1000? Yes, it will. Happy. So yes, it will fit the new machine or the 1000, I believe. And so but the firmware might not be out for that for a little while yet. So here is the compatible machines. Here's what we're talking about. So this is what the 6-needle cap frame driver set looked like. This is what the 10-needle, the wide frame for the PR1000, the PR1050. This is the new setup that we have for the machines. So you can see that some of the differences that are here. Hooping convenience. It was fairly difficult over with these ones. It's much easier on here. The flat brim sewing, it was very, very difficult to do that with the flat brim here. It is now much easier. And the holding mechanism was one piece. Now there's two pieces that's separate. And so you can slide it into the base and it makes it much nicer. Excuse me. But here's the thing. It will not fit the PR600 and the 602. So that's way back there. These are machines that are about 15 years old now, 18 years old. They won't do those, but it will fit all of the new ones, including the Persona. So for those of you that that have a persona, this hat hoop will fit on there for you. There you go. Happy, happy. All right. The other thing they came out with is they came out with a new PR playbook. And this has 34 projects. And the nice thing about the playbook is that it doesn't just teach you a project. It teaches you the machine while you do a project. So you learn what these different buttons are for, and it takes you step by step through the design. I don't think I have any. Nope, don't back up. I don't think I have any slides showing that, but it will be, but it actually shows you what icon to push the whole step of the way through so that you learn how these things do it. This is how I learned how to hoop caps and how I learned and taught myself how to do it by watching the videos that are built in the machine and this type of a playbook. And so thus this was really handy to, if you were away from a dealer, or let's say that your dealer doesn't support you real well, you can now get this book and you can actually learn your machine completely on your own. Or maybe you're one of my customers, and you think I do support you really well, but I don't answer phone calls at 10:30 at night. My wife doesn't like me talking to other ladies at 10:30 at night. So, one of my customers here is saying it's 2 a.m. Yeah, no, I don't talk to them then either. And so this is a great tool that no matter when you want to learn this, if you work night shifts and you got to sleep during the day, and then you want to start sewing at 8:30 at night, this will teach you the class. So it's really handy for them. Someone asked a question. They're just tuning in now. Can they go back and watch the rest of this? Yes, this will be left on the Facebook page, and you'll be able to go back and watch the whole thing over for about the next week. All right, let's go into the scan and cut. They came out with a new scan and cut. They brought back the SDX 225, but they labeled it with an F. What does that mean? And they also brought back the SDX 230DX. They added a DX. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at this. There are some new things that they've done with this. So these are some of the new items that they have. I'm just going to go over it. There's 2 new machines. They now have a fabric mat. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. They now have a scan and cut link activation card. Talk about that a little bit later. They have a vinyl auto blade kit. A lot of times when we're doing heat transfer vinyl, or we're doing wall or adhesive vinyl, like for doing walls, sometimes that blade, at least I've had trouble sometimes with my machine, either cutting too deep or cutting not deep enough. And they fix that by having a different style of blade, and it's really handy. And they also have the Disney version of the blade kit, which both include some different projects. And then you also have replacement blades to them as well. They have a whole bunch of new pattern collections. Sorry, I've been talking here for, almost an hour. All right, wet my whistle and keep going. And they have some new pattern collections, including Frozen 2, for those of you who can't seem to let it go. And they have the Scan and Cut playbook. Now, remember, we're going to talk about that, but the playbook is huge for learning your machines and just building your skill set with it. And a mat storage case. That is a really nice thing. And Brother is coming out with their own brand of cork fabric that has designer stuff in it. It's really, really kind of cool stuff. So let's take a look at some of this. The new fabric mat. Many of you bought a machine because you want to almost use it exclusively to cut fabric. And the first thing we did, you got to take your high-tack adhesive mat, and then you have to put this high-tack sheet on it, and you have to put that with that. And then once you have that, then it makes your fabric mat. And you say, well, what happens? What if I need another one of these? Oh, you got to buy another one of those. What they're doing now is that they're not including this high-tack sheet. Instead, they've made a new sheet here that is just for fabric. I think I hear some of you cheering, but it's a little hard because I'm back in my office here. Yeah, that is a really, really nice feature. No more trying to figure out what mat to use, what this or that. This mat works well for that, and you don't have to prep your fabric. Now, I still like to use Material Magic on it, but you don't have to put fusible web or anything like that behind here to use this mat. Handy feature. They also want you to know that if you have a Scan and Cut DX, if you have this tan colored knife, that is a thin blade for cutting thin fabric, and that is what's going to work best. You can use your auto blade, but it's not going to have quite as good a success because of the angle of the knife. And that's where it's really important to know your stuff. And so the tan is going to be more like fabric. The black is going to be more for everything else. So keep that. The way I remember it, muslin is oftentimes this tannish color. There you go. I won't charge any extra for that. All right. So the other thing is that with the scan and cut link, they now have this where a lot of times we get artwork or files from other places. And I personally use Adobe Illustrator frequently, but I have no way of taking Adobe Illustrator into scan and cut other than through certain types. Actually, Illustrator doesn't even save it as SVG. I have to, at least my version doesn't. I have to save it as EPS and go into something else and convert it into SVG. And so this is where you now, those of you who like to use Adobe Illustrator, it's great for bringing in those files. And you can also put registration marks on it so that no matter if you print things out on the printer and now you want to cut them out, by putting those registration marks on there and bringing in that file into your scan and cut, you don't have to scan the background in. You can just say, look for the registration marks, and it'll find them, line up the cutter, and cut it perfectly. So this is an illustration, some of these things. You know, these are all these little coffee cup stickers. They came out in a sheet like this, but it had the registration marks, and it just went in there and cut them all out just like that. I don't know if it made that noise. They're pretty quiet, but that's a handy feature right there. Here's another thing. So, oh yeah, the vinyl auto blade. We talked about that. The vinyl auto blade is going to be gray, and that is going to be a new blade that is just coming out. You will be able, I believe, to use that on some of your older machines. Here's a weeding box function. Now, this is something that I really liked, because if you have a big, like a 12 by 24 piece of vinyl, and you got lots of different little pieces of wording and lettering through the whole thing, like the lettering that you see up behind me here on the thing, you don't want to try to pull that big sheet off of there at one time, because the chances of you pulling the dot off of an eye or something like that, or tearing a little piece, is pretty high. And so what we would do is we put weeding boxes, just a square box around certain groups of letters that we can work in manageable sizes. And that is something that we've had on the commercial side for years, and they've brought it into our machines now. And so I'm excited about that, because it's going to make doing heat transfer vinyl, sign vinyl, or adhesive vinyl for walls and cups and things like that, it's going to make that a lot easier for us to weed those things later. And then tiling function. What's tiling function? Well, I haven't got to play with this yet, but tiling function allows you to make designs that are bigger than 12 by 24, or even bigger than the 70-inch long roll cutter feeder. So this is a wall, this is a window that was completely cut out with a scan and cut. Using the tiling function, they were able to make these things in all separate pieces and put them all together. So that's a new function that comes with that Link software coming out. There's also there's 21 patterns that come with the vinyl auto blade kit. These are big designs. Some of them are larger. Yeah, some of them are larger than others. Woohoo! There you go. That was my duhism for the day. Yeah, I'm not sure if any of these are the tiling scenes or not. This is more of them. Vinyl auto blade kit. They now have a new Disney kit that is available, and there's 31 patterns that are built into that. Some of these you can see are going to be work for that roll feeder attachment. Some different ones that are there. And the playbook. Again, the gal who teaches this, Cindy Hogan, is an excellent teacher. She is the one that I hang out at her booth, and we talk geek talk for a long time when she's not busy with other dealers. And I really enjoy her. She has a really good way of taking complex ideas and breaking them down so we can see how she thinks step by step, and we learn the machine while we learn how to do some of these projects. It's really, really handy, and it kind of opens your mind, blows your mind to the things you can do with these machines. It's a wonderful accessory. And so if you're looking at buying a scan and cut, talk to your dealer and see once if he can make you a special deal in getting this in with your machine. Or if you already have your machine, talk to him anyways and see what they can do, because this is going to really make it handier for you. Storing your mats. I don't know about you, but my daughter has gotten frustrated with me out here at our store because my scan and cut area can get pretty messy sometimes, because I have mats for this and mats for that and scraps of vinyl here and stuff there. And she kind of gets a little irritated. But she told me yesterday when she came back home from work, she goes, because yesterday was my day off, she goes, "Papa, I cleaned up your scan and cut area again." I love this here. You now have a storage place. You can store all your mats right on top of here. You also can store excess pieces of vinyl. You have several pockets where you can put some of your tools in here. And it also folds up and so you can carry it with you wherever you go. Kind of handy. It only is available through dealers. You're not going to get this on Amazon, so it's kind of a handy feature there. Here's your cork fabric. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on here. Can I zoom in? Nope. Hey, get back here. There we go. Yeah, now you're talking. All right. Look at that. That's some of the cork fabric that they're coming out with. And so if you have not worked with cork fabric, it's great for making coasters, for making purses, for making appliques. It's really fun. It's got that really ultra soft feel, and it's got fabric on the backside, so it's not fragile. And so you can cut out wonderful shapes like this. Reen Wilcoxon from Embroidery Garden is the first one that kind of taught me that you can do stuff with cork fabric. When she had how to make cork bags, and we just had an event with her here a few weeks ago, and it was fun to see all the different stuff you can do with cork. And now I'm kind of going with looking at this thing, I'm going to have to start doing some more all over again. So really handy stuff that we got coming in there in that cork fabric. And one roll is a 12 by 24 inch sheet. So you can cut out the entire thing on one big sheet from Brother if you want to. So that's, let me get back over here. So that's a lot of what's coming up. That's some of the new machines and some of the new stuff that they have with it. And we are going to be going over some more of this in the next few days as we get our new machines in. And if I find something that I really can't contain any longer, I might just make another little live video. So there might not be any warning, but we'll do that. But I'm kind of happy with this again. I mean, granted, I don't think there's such a huge change in these machines that all of you that have XP1s are going to trade in your machines for an XP2. No, because you can make your machine an XP2. Neither do I think that a lot of people that have the 1050X are going to immediately want to get into sell their 1050X and go to a 1055X. But I do see them continuing to invest in developing these machines and not just letting them grow old and get stagnant. I mean, by giving us some of these things, now I can see the 10 needle being a machine for quilters. The ones who really want to do it, it's got the tools. We got the magnetic hoop. We got the fancy fills. We have the speed, and we can change those colors quickly and get through it quite easily. So I'm seeing some of those things. The scan and cut, I'm seeing them continue to push the envelope on this far beyond any others. So check with your dealers for prices. I can't give them out online here because, unfortunately, this video goes a lot farther than what my dealership extends. I'm grateful for you all to be here. I just remembered something. I was going to do a giveaway live on the air, and I forgot to prepare for that. So I apologize. I will get that done, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until 6 o'clock this evening, and I will post on the website someone who has left a comment of something that they like that was shown here. What did you really like in this presentation? And you leave a comment with it, and I will choose a comment from those, and they will win a special prize. I have a random generator that reads all the comments, reads hundreds and hundreds of comments, so don't feel bad. But if you read in there and you leave a comment with what you like, and I will give that away. I have to talk to my service or my sales manager to make sure we haven't sold what I want to give away. So check it out, and I will leave a little note what the prize is going to be in just a little bit. Okay? Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for your business and support. And God bless. And we'll see you later. Take care.